Let me help you with this lesson. Sharon's show. Keisha is helping plan a race route for a 10-kilometer charity run. The committee wants to set up the following things along the course. Viewing areas at the end of each half of the course. There will be water stations at the end of each fifth of the course, and distance markers at the end of each tenth of the course. Which locations have more than one thing located there? Get it? They're asking which of these things have a common location, common denominators. So first we're going to make a table to organize the information. Here you see the three areas: viewing areas, water stations, and distance markers. A half means there's two parts to a whole, so there are two locations of viewing areas. For water stations, each fifth of the course, how many locations do you think there will be? 5. And distance markers are at the end of each tenth of a course. So there are 10 locations. The first viewing area is located at the half marker. Okay? What are all the locations? The first one is at 1/2. Where would the second one be? 2/2. Water stations are located every fifth of the course. Okay, so we have 1/5. What comes next? 2/5. You fill in the rest. There's a hint. Distance markers are 1/10. The first location has 1/10. When we look at the denominator, with a denominator of 10, that should tell you how many locations it will be. Once you have filled in all the locations for distance markers, we're going on to the next step. Here it says next, identify the relationship. Use a common denominator and find equivalent fractions. So if we look at our denominators here of 2, 5, and 10, we need to ask ourselves, what is a common factor of 2, 5, and 10? The common factor is 10. So we need to find a common denominator of 10. On a separate sheet of paper, go back and look at all of your fractions for halves and all of your fractions for fifths and try to find common denominators of 10. Once you have found all the common denominators, you will be able to identify the locations at which more than one thing will be set up. Circle those locations. When you have found equivalent fractions in the viewing areas, water stations, and distance markers, that is a sign that those locations will have more than one thing located there. If you find equivalent fractions in the viewing areas and water stations, they have a common location, or water stations and distance markers have equivalent fractions, that would be a common location. Or if all three have equivalent fractions, that would be a location where there's more than one thing. Okay? Now let's move on to the hot question. What if distance markers will also be placed at the end of every fourth course. Every fourth course. Oops. Okay. Will any of those markers be set up at the same location as another distance marker, water station, or viewing area? Explain. Okay, so you need to think about that. If it's every fourth, right, how many locations will there be? There will be 4. Identify where they would be. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. Do you have any equivalent fractions to those 4 fractions in viewing areas, water stations, or distance markers? Again, those are 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, or 4/4. Do you have any equivalent fractions to the ones you've identified there? If you do, they would be at the same location, right? Explain your thinking. Please finish number 3 on your own in your textbook. Please draw a star on the bottom right-hand corner of your page of this slide to show me that you have listened and watched this whole video. Mahalo.